I am Dracula.
Dracula. The very mention of the name brings to mind things so evil, so fantastic, so degrading. You wonder if it isn't all a dream, a nightmare. And a man who lived after death, lived on human blood, took the form of a vampire bat, and lured innocent girls to a fate truly worse than death.
Dracula. I am Dracula.
Might help if I unmuted my mic. But hi everybody, Commander. Thank you so much for that tier 1 resub for 9 months. Hey, Twitch baby. So we are hanging out, and we're gonna do a playtest of Rune, which is by Gila RPG. And actually, I'm gonna go grab a couple links for us that I can throw in Nightbot. Because that is what I forgot to do before stream. So, I'm just gonna grab these real quick. Where is my Nightbot window? if I did this right. There we go. So, you can follow development of the Rune solo Souls-like RPG over at Gilla RPGs on Twitter. You can follow the Kickstarter, which currently has like 300 followers at that link, and then GillaRPGs.itch.io is where you can get the playtest yourself. So I literally have just opened the documents. I haven't looked much at it, other than I know it is based on Elden Ring. Morning, Red. Welcome on in. It is based on Elden Ring, so we're gonna kind of follow through it and see what's going on there. And yeah, we'll just get right into it. So, what is Rune? We're gonna skip over tutorial bit because we're gonna learn as we go. But Rune is a solo Souls-like RPG that is currently being developed by Spencer Campbell of Gilla RPGs. I am actually gonna switch the music. It combines narrative world exploration with tactical and deadly combat. You can learn more at the Rune website, which is provided in the playtest. I should also probably say in the Gilla server that I'm streaming. Am I allowed to do that? Probably not, actually, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, no. That's fine. But thank you for that, Mariah. Cycle of play. Rune goes through a cycle of play between exploration and combat. Play begins with exploration. As you explore the realm that you've wandered into, during exploration, you will be faced with threats. When that happens, play switches to the combat phase. This document provides basic rules. If you would like to see all the rules, check out the Rune Complete Rules and the Grim Coast Realm documents, which we have pulled up. If we have time at the end, we'll check those out. And give feedback. Also, there's a Kickstarter. Alright. Hey, learn as you play. This tutorial is designed to teach you the rules as they become necessary through play. You can read ahead if you'd like, but teaching has been coupled with the mystery of exploring this realm, and you may spoil the fun for yourself if you do so. But what if I die? Rune can be a dangerous game, and the engraved die all the time. I have tried to design this tutorial to minimize that possibility, but death is a natural part of an engraved's life. If your character dies, just reset the fight at full health and try again. Normally there are penalties and things that happen when the engraved die, but we will simplify things for the tutorial. I need a big pile of D6s. I have those. I will also need a grid. I did not think to set up a roll 20 for this. So I'm gonna just dig out all my dice real quick. You know, just real fast like. Because I think they all ended up in the same pockets. I need to reorganize this bag. That's fine. So in the meantime, chat, how's it going? Hope your Saturday morning is treating you well. I don't remember how many sets I actually put in here, so I might have all of them. Okay. We'll go with that for now and see, and hope that's enough D6s. And then for the grid, we'll probably emulate something over here. So let me just combat grid, and we'll do insert a 4x4 table. And we'll do it like that. Cool. So, may also want paper and a writing utensil to track notes and other things during play. So, we're seeking the power to control our fate. Gonna do some drawing warm-ups. Nice. I'm so sorry, I'm still munching on breakfast, so y'all just have to deal with that a little bit. Play for a while. Discover the power to control your fate was in you all along. Yeah. You wake and find yourself laying on the ground. The glow, a rune carved into the ground. I'm also gonna make feedback text a little smaller. Also, here, let me do some rearranging, because this was originally made for writing. And so I'm just gonna have to, I'll redo this overlay later, but we're gonna do something like that for now. That looks okay. Just trying to make it to where y'all can actually read what I'm saying over here. But anyways. The glow of a rune carved into the ground provides the only light at first. Your eyes fixing on the sigil, you feel burn on the back of your hand. Your fingers curl around an obsidian chisel, and the same runic symbol on the ground burns bright on your skin. You are an engraved. Imbued with the power to take runes of power from those around you and chisel them into your very being. If you gather enough, perhaps you can be free. In the glow of the sigil, you see two shapes on the ground, a sword and a shield. They are familiar in your grip. Okay. I have a feeling this has not been grammar checked. You have found your first pieces of gear. Gear is a catch-all term for weapons, supporting items you use. For now, you start with these two weapons, a longsword and shield. You'll find the cards for these in the back of the document. Set them aside so that you'll be ready to use them. We'll just have to refer to them as we go. It's now time for you to begin your adventure across the realm. Realms are a region of the world of Oberon, teeming with dangers to fight and mysteries to uncover. Realms also hide runes, powerful symbols that an engraved can carve into their being, giving you control over fate. Look at the realm map on the next page to learn more about realms and exploration. Realm map. We have a realm map. We're going to be wandering the map. The important locations of the map are labeled with a number and are called points. During exploration, you move from point to point. At points, you will have a number of actions you can take, including fighting enemies, searching for valuables, learning about the realm, and delving into dangerous situations. So we have this nice little map. Like there's a town. We're probably starting here. There's a town we can go to, and there's some kind of mountain, or a hill, and then a forest. So, Sigil, which is point 1. A sigil carved into the very soul of this realm, connecting you with it is a place of rest, recovery, and rebirth. Sigil is a place of safety in the realm. And your connection to it made with the chisel you carry. Sigils serve two purposes in this game. First, you can rest at a sigil anytime you visit one. If you do, you recover all your missing health. Second, the sigil is where you appear after you die. Reborn in grave have all of their health recovered. Realms of Oberon are cyclical, and death has a cost. But for this tutorial, we won't worry about that. Okay, time to take your first steps in playing Rune. Right now, you're in exploration mode since you're not currently fighting anything. Since there isn't much to do at Sigil, it's time to move on. You can move from your current point to any other point that is connected to. So we'll move to point 2. Before you read what's happening at point 2, you need to advance the realm clock. Realm clocks differ from realm to realm. They track progress towards an event. Okay, so we'll make realm clock. They track progress towards an event. It could be something like the changing between day or night, or a massive event such as the destruction of a point on a map. Realm clock is 8 slices. And we are going to mark one segment of it, so... No. Hold on. This is gonna bug me. There we go. Alright. Mark a segment to show that you've moved between points. It seems that whatever you filled in the clock completely, a great power will shift to you, the engraved. Alright. We're in the dueling fields. The path takes you to a field of tall grass. A lone figure stands in the distance, a drawn weapon in their hand. What's an engraved doing in a place like this? No matter, it's time to send you to your final rest. When you arrive at a point, there will be a collection of actions you can take. The 4 types of actions are fight, search, learn, and delve. If a point has a fight on it, you have to do that first before you can access any of the other actions. Okay, so we need a fight, and then we can search and get the healing vial. Okay. First fight. So we have the engraved, which is us, and the duelist. Place them on opposite sides of the grid as seen below. Place the longsword and shield cards in front of you. These represent the gear you have equipped. Set aside 2d6. These represent your stamina pool and will be used to activate your gear. So unfortunately y'all can't see my dice. I'm using I have this gold and inky. A little hard to see the gold. Hold on. Heading to Brenham. Sweet. Well, enjoy your trip. Safe travels. Yeah, we just got to the first fight. I'm using a golden oil for myself, and then I have a red dye for the duelist. So this is an enemy you will fight. Set aside 1d6 for the duelist. This will be used to determine what actions the duelist will take when they act. You need to track the health of your engraved, and the enemy may use paper or pen. Alright, so do combat notes. Engraved has 10 out of 10 health. Duelist is 6 out of 6 health. Also, real quick, y'all, reason I was so hyped to try this out was Ice Cold Brew, so go check them out over on their Twitch channel. And they are also featured on Denari's Half Dozen and Fire in the Dark, so, you know, come back tomorrow for some blades and see coal. Alright, we're now ready to begin. Combat in Rune takes place in rounds. During a round, both the engraved and all enemies will complete a number of actions. Alright, so each round follows the same 5 steps. Determine enemy actions, move enemy, determine engraved actions, move engraved, deal harm. So depending on how that works, we might have an advantage here. But we'll see. Okay. We'll take you through each step, and then you'll repeat them until someone dies. Okay. So, determine duelist action. We roll the d6, and I got a 5. So, okay, rolling for enemies happens at the beginning of rounds so that the engraved can anticipate the enemy's actions and try to adapt to the situation. That's a design trick in this initiative order to call it that. Because if you have the enemies determine their things first, then you as the character will know what's happening. And yeah, this is enemies telegraphing their actions so that you know what's going on. Alright. You'll see these actions used during other steps in the round. Okay. So, each of the duelist action sets has a movement action in it. Here's an example. Move 1 in the above example would move 1 space closer. Whenever they move left, right, up, down. Enemies cannot move diagonally unless said otherwise. When an enemy moves, they will always try to move to the closest possible range that can deal harm. Lastly, some action sets do not have a movement option. This is not the case for the duelist, but will be the case in future fights. Alright, so look at the duelist card and find its range. The duelist deals harm whenever it is in the same space or an adjacent space to you. Okay, so the duelist is going to move up. And we'll go from there. So, real quick, before we determine our action, let's look. Okay, so the range on our card is that. Okay, so actually, looking at this correctly, the duelist, I rolled a 5. Duelist gets move 2, harm 1, block 1. So that means it's going to deal 1 harm and can block 1 harm. Neat. And then we are... here. Now that you've seen the enemy move, you know what it will do at the end of the round, dealing and blocking harm. It's time to decide what you will do with the gear you have. So rolling, we got a 9. So, I'm using the gold for the sword, the oil for the shield. So actually we got a 3, move 1, harm 2, and then the shield is block 2. So overall we're doing move 1, harm 2, block 2. So okay, so you can assign as is. So actually, okay, so sorry, I was just skimming over to explain it out loud. So essentially, you roll the set of dice, and then you assign those values individually. Unless, no, you didn't. I was just fast. unless the sum of those dice can be a valid option for an action. So in this case, I rolled a 3 and a 6, the sum of which is 9. 9 is not a valid option for the sword or the shield because they each have a max of 6. So we have to assign them individually. I'm going to assign the 6 to the sword, which will be move 1, harm 3, and I'm going to assign the 3 to the shield, which is going to be block 1. So in total, we have move 2, harm 3, block 1. Okay, so characters can share the same space. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in the same space. Determine harm. Harm is dealt to both the engraved and the enemy at the same time. First determine if they are in range of one another. So as long as they are in the same space or orthogonal to each other, they can deal harm. They deal their harm to each other. If characters are in the same space as one another, they deal an additional 1 to the harm. Okay, that's good to know. So, okay, so hold on. So I'm actually dealing 4 harm and blocking 1. The duelist, I got a 5, so is going to deal 2 harm and block 1. So it's going to take 3 damage, and I'm going to take 1 damage. Yeah, if I'm tracking all that correctly. So then we just roll it all again. So, the duelist got a 3, which is the same thing, and I think I got the exact same thing, which ends with the duelist dying from harm. Because I got... Actually, no, nothing on the shield, because 2 is not a valid option. Okay, so I don't even block. So in that case, I think I'm taking 2 harm. Yeah. So I'm taking 2 harm, and the duelist is dead. And... I don't have a strike through option. Why? Why do you do this to me? There we go. Duelist is dead! So, process is then repeated for additional rounds until either the duelist or you are dead. A round might feel complicated at first, you get used to it. Alright, so we have fought the duelist, and now we have a healing vial. If I can spell. You just survived your first combat in Rune, and I went ahead and did the stuff for the search option. With the duelist dead, you have completed the fight action at the dueling fields, which means you can now search. Before you do, you need to mark the realm clock. So let me mark that up to 2. Clock is not only advanced when you move between points, but also after you complete actions. Since you completed fight, you should fill in another segment. Since you went through the trouble of dealing with the duelist, you may as well take the time to search the dueling fields. Now you search, and you have to up it again. Alright, so we have searched and fought. It is now time for you to move. You smell and see smoke in the distance. Time to investigate the scorched town. And now we're at 4 segments because we've now moved to point 3. Smoke and ash, charred meat. This was once a nice town, and now it's a burning grave. Okay, so the only action we can do here is learn. So we're going to increase lore +1. You can now travel between 0.4 and 0.5. Burning Grave is the name of... Nice, Commander. Alright. So, very little has survived the fire that torched this town, but among the cinders you find a tattered map. It reads, meet here after the job is done. No witnesses. Mark the realm clock. Okay. Lore. At the start of every realm, your lore is 0. Lore represents your knowledge of the realm. In the beginning, you know very little about the lands you wander. Only through exploration can you truly understand them. Your lore is now 1, so write that down. Lore is a passive value that will allow you to access things at points you wouldn't normally be able to. Information is power in Rune. The lore action also gives you a hint of the story of the realm. You now know some horrible plot befell this town, but who did it? You now know the path. Time to follow the trail to the bandit camp. So, going back to our realm map real quick. We can now go from 4 to 5. We are at the Scorched Town, and we can move to 0.4, which is the bandit camp. So, interesting stuff here. Also, this playtest is not taking very long. I like how quick this is. That I can just pick it up and go. So, the sun is setting as you follow the trail towards a hill in the distance. Sounds of argument bounced off the hill and warn you there is trouble ahead. Once again, mark the realm clock. Alright, so there's now a fight. 2 bandits are arguing with one another while they pull valuables from the corpses at their feet. It seems, and actually before we get into that, during exploration, I'm going to go ahead and take the healing vial, and bring myself back up to 9, because I have a feeling I'm going to want it. That was a concern for me. I was worried picking up the game wouldn't flow easily without a chunk of prep. Yeah, like, Colt, I know I already told you this, but for the audience, I literally just downloaded the documents and said, okay, we're going to do a playtest. Because that's how easy a tutorial version of the game should be. It should be, I download the document and can start playing. Which, in this case, pretty much was true. I could have printed out the cards just to make them a little easier to reference. But otherwise, I can pull up this PDF and just run through the tutorial without any issue, which is really nice compared to some games. Like, I remember, I don't have as much experience with solo tabletop, but, like, picking up a game like Dungeons & Dragons, you need to read, like, at least 20 pages of stuff just to get an idea of what's going on. And that's, like, actual documentation, not fluff. So, you know, there's that along with it. So, yeah, being able to just pick it up and go, fantastic. So it seems you found at least some of those responsible for burning down the nearby town. It's time for your next fight. Okay, so now we have the Engraved, and then Bandit 1 and Bandit 2. And we'll go ahead and Alright. 3 tokens, 1 representing the engraved, 2 representing the enemies. Place the bandit card in front of you. This is the enemy you will fight. While there are 2 of them, you need only 1 card. You start with 10 health. Each bandit starts with 4. So bandits have 4 health. I might be playing this on hard mode by not healing correctly, but we will see. Okay. Using multiple enemies. Core rules learned in your first fight all still apply here. However, there are some considerations when there are multiple enemies. Step 1, update. Reroll a d6 for each enemy. This creates a variety of action sets. That means the 2 bandits may act differently from one another. You'll have to adapt to multiple threats and decide how best to position yourself to face off against them. Step 2, update. When moving against multiple enemies, you can choose the order they are moved. This may require you to interpret the best path for an enemy to take while trying to get in range. While 2 characters can occupy the same space on the grid, no more than 2 may do so. If there's ever a moment an enemy would need to move onto a space that already has 2 characters, they simply do not move. Okay. No changes to our steps. And then 5, harm from all sources is given and blocked at the same time. That means if multiple enemies deal harm to you this round, it is summed and dealt together rather than as a series of attacks. This is important for how your block works. Block reduces total harm, not harm from each source. Engraved must deal all of their harm to a single target unless their gear allows them to do otherwise. Okay. So, we're going to go to the cards and start rolling. So, for the bandits, they both rolled 4, which is move 1, harm 1. So, I'm just going to have them both move up. And their range is same and adjacent, so I don't think they're going to get to attack this turn. Well, one of them won't. And I rolled a 1 and a 2. So I'm going to apply... I'm going to apply it as... How best to do this? I'm going to actually apply it as 3. Oh, hi Monk, welcome on in. We are doing a playtest of Rune. You can check out Rune at all of these links. There's also a website that I forgot to link, but this is kind of like the main points of interest. I'm actually going to apply this as a 3. And... oh, excuse me. We're going to do move 1, block 1. So our engraved is going to move up and is going to prep the shield. So then harm is dealt. The bandit would have dealt 1 harm, but we blocked 1 harm. So then we start it all over. So the bandits got a 1 and a 4. So... still the same thing. Move 1, harm 1. So bandit 2 is not going to move. Bandit 1 is going to move up. And then we're going to see what we can do. Double 6s. So we're going to do move 1, harm 3, and block 2. So we're going to move... here's how this is going to work. We are going to move into Bandit 2's space. The reason we're going to do that is because we are now out of range of Bandit 1. Because you can't attack diagonally. You can only attack orthogonally. So like left, right, up, down. Or if you share the same space. So we are now going to... we moved 1. Our harm is going to be 4 because we share a space with Bandit 2, and we block 2. Meanwhile, the Bandit is dealing 2 harm. So we're going to actually block all harm. Also, they should have 3 health according to the card. But we'll keep it as 4. And we basically just one-shot this Bandit. And take him out. So Bandit 2 is no more. We then start the combat over, and I remove a die from the enemy's pool. So now we're down to 1d6 for the enemy, 2d6 for us. The enemy rolled a 3, so they're going to move 1, harm 1. So I'm going to have Bandit 1 come in behind us, and then we got a 2 and a 3, which I believe... So we're going to deal 1 harm, move 1, block 1. So I'm not going to move. I'm going to block the harm that the Bandit dealt and deal a harm. So it is down to 3 health, which you can see right here. So far, we have not taken any damage, which is nice. And then, probably final round for this. Bandit rolled a 2, so move 1, harm 1. And we got a 4 and a 5. So the Bandit's going to move into our space. And try to take us out. And we got a 4 and a 5. So the Bandit's dealing 2 harm right now. So I'm going to put the 5 in shield to block 2. And I'm going to put the 4 in sword to deal 3. Because we're going to get a +1 for sharing space. Combat resolves. We don't take damage. And they die. This flows really well. Like, don't get me wrong. Spencer Campbell, who is Gilla RPGs, makes some fantastic RPGs. I actually am waiting on my copy of Slayers to come in, so I can try that out. And Gilla RPGs is also the creator of Lumen, which I have a Lumen hack that I'm working on over on Patreon, on my Patreon, that everyone will be able to check out very soon. Beyond all that, though, that's pretty cool. So, I like how simplified this combat is compared to other games. Anyways, that was the bandit camp. So we fought 2 bandits. We are now at 7 of 8 segments on our rune clock, or our realm clock, excuse me. So this puts us at 7 out of 8 segments. Something will happen next time I act. These bandits are certainly responsible for the travesty of the Scorched Town, but they aren't the only ones. There's one more point, and that is the Rune Lord at point 5. Before doing so, check your health. This might be a good time to drink that healing vial to recover some health before moving on if you haven't already done so. When you're ready, go to the entry for the Rune Lord. So, following the map, you come upon a clearing near the coast. Piles of ash are scattered around, the belongings of bandits mixed within. A source of terrible power haunts this place. The sigil on the back of your hand thrums. Reach out, face this entity, and claim its rune as your own. Delve. Requires lore +1+. Take on a temporary curse to summon the Rune Lord. You have -1 stamina for the first round of the fight. So, fight, and then we will fight the Rune Lord. A roaring bonfire sits at the center of the clearing. The power comes from these flames, you're sure of it. Reaching in, your skin crackles from the heat, and you pull the Rune Lord into this realm, ready to slay it. So we have found the Rune Lord. Every realm has one, and they serve as the boss. Slaying them will grant you access to power in the form of their rune. As an engraved, you can carve these runes into your being, granting you control over your fate. You must slay this Rune Lord. We're about to face the boss, but a couple things happen. So we have hit 8 segments of the clock. power shifts to the engrave. A new piece of gear appears in front of you just in time for you to face this terrible foe. The Radiant Amulet. Piece of utility gear. Variety of different types, but let's focus on the Radiant Amulet. Oh, excuse me. It is a example of locked utility item. Utility gear functions similarly to weapons. They have values that you assign dice to in order to gain an effect. The difference is that a die assigned to a locked item can be locked into that item, staying there for future rounds. When you do this, you will always gain whatever effect the locked item provides, but you will not roll that die when you normally roll your stamina pool. Locked dice can be returned to your stamina pool at the end of any round. Look at what the Radiant Amulet does. It allows you to heal during combat so long as you keep a die locked in it. You don't have to lock in a die right now, but the option is there. You're imbued with additional power. For this last fight, your stamina pool is increased to 3. So I'm going to give us a new die. You don't need to assign all of your dice every time you roll them. Now you have even better odds for your weapons and can lock in the amulet without messing with your weapons. So, you must complete the delve action. They typically require you to have done something before you can engage with them, such as minimum lore, finding an item, or some other task. Thankfully, you have a lore of 1 because you did the learn action at Scorched Town. You've done everything you can to prepare. Pick up your weapons, place the amulet around your neck, and don't die. A massive skeleton covered in scorched armor, wielding a sword of flame, looms before you. The Rune Lord of this realm seeks your end. So, the final fight. So, we have the engraved in one spot, and the Rune Lord in another. Along with that, we have a series of obstacles, I'm guessing. Yep, massive terrain that blocks the battlefield. No character can move through or onto these spaces. 2d6 for the Rune Lord. Alright. And the Rune Lord has 10 health. So, got all the setup. Rune Lord fights the same way as other enemies you have faced. It has a number of action sets that determine how it will act during combat, and they are determined by rolling dice. However, each Rune Lord also has special rules that makes them more dangerous and unique. This Rune Lord rolls 2d6 and keeps the higher result when determining which action set it uses each round. They also have a special effect whenever they roll a 6 for the action set. The Erupt power deals harm to every adjacent space to the Rune Lord, so keep away from them if you see that coming. Good luck. Don't die. Alright. So we are going to do the fight. We have 3 items. The moment we get a 6, I'm locking that in for that heal 2 harm. The description for Radiant Amulet needs a different thing. Alright, Rune Lord. Same and adjacent, just as usual. And it is adjacent spaces, so I'm going to assume that does not include diagonal, as we've said before. So we're going to start with the Rune Lord. Highest result is a 5, so move 2, harm 3. So 1 and 2, Rune Lord's gonna move there. It cannot, well, it can't hit us yet. And then we, a 3, a 4, and a 5. So, Healing 3 to us. We get in range. Right? Yeah. Move 2, harm 3. Okay. So I could deal 2 to it and block 2 and then heal 1. No, I wouldn't be able to heal. Yes, I could heal 1. Okay, we're going to do that. We're going to put the 3 in Longsword, so move 1, harm 2. We're going to put the 4 in the Radiant Amulet, so we'll heal 1 at the start of each round. And so we have to lock. Also, wait, we wouldn't have had a die. Because technically we started with 1 less stamina because we summoned the Rune Lord. So we're gonna ignore the 4. Because that was the newest die. So we have a 3 and a 5. So we're going to put the 5 in block 2, and we're going to put the 3 in move 1, harm 2. So we're going to move. Well, tactically, that is not my best option. Yeah, no. Actually. We'll try it. We'll move 1, harm 2, block 2. So, resolving. Rune Lord deals 1 to us, we deal 2 to it. And then we are at the start of combat. Alright, 5 again. So it's going to be move 2, harm 3. For that, 3, 3, 1. Alright, this is looking great for us. I literally can't put any of that in the Radiant Amulet, so I'm just going to get rid of the 1, and we're going to have 2 3s to work with. So, Rune Lord would have moved into our space, first off. So it's going to deal 4, depending on how much we block. So, 2 3s. Yeah, no. I'm not taking that. We're gonna go 1, 2, and move out of the way. So no harm is dealt. And we get back to the start of the round. Can't roll a 6 to save my life. Alright, so looking at the Rune Lord. I got a 6, so it's move 3, harm 3, and erupt. So, I believe those are... I believe the way erupt works is when harm is dealt. So it is going to... It is going to move 1. Have I considered taking the Devil's Bargain? Always. Always take the Devil's Bargain. So it is going to move into our space. Probably with the goal of, if we move, we get erupted. So it's going to be dealing 4 harm. I'm going to lock in the 5. So I'm going to heal 1 harm at the start of each round. And so I have a 3 and a 4 to play with. They do the same thing. So I'm going to deal 2 harm, and block a harm. This is about to hurt. Because so Rune Lord deals 4 harm, I block 1, so I take 3. The Rune Lord doesn't block, so I deal 3. So both myself and the Rune Lord are at 5 out of our 10 health. Okay. Back at the start of the round, I've locked in that 5, so we're going to heal to 6. And I roll for the Rune Lord, another 6. Oh, he would have erupted, but we were not in an adjacent space. We were in a... The erupt power deals harm to every adjacent space to the Rune Lord, so keep away from them if you see that coming. Good luck, don't die. Yeah. So it only says adjacent, not same. So I'm going to assume the engraved was fine, but we do have another move 3, harm 3 erupt. And then we'll see a 2 and a 4. Oof. I'm going to take the 6. I'm going to take the total of 6. I'm not going to block anything. And we're going to deal 4. So, we have move 1, harm 3. I'm not going to move because it's erupting. It's not going to move. Well, actually, it might have moved back. Here's what I think it would have done. This would have occurred. The Rune Lord would have moved back to try to erupt. We move up to avoid the eruption. And then harm is dealt. So it is dealing 4 harm to us, putting us at 2. And we are dealing 4 harm to it, putting it at 1. Alright. And I locked in that 5, so we're at 3 health. See what? Alright, the Rune Lord has a 4, which I believe... Move 1, harm 2, block 1. Oof, okay. We may be in trouble. So it's gonna move 1. It's gonna stay in space because it wants to get max harm. And then block 1. We've recovered our health. So we have a 1 and a 2. So I'm going to use that to move 1, block 3. So I'm only using the shield. So we moved back 1. We're going to put up the shield. Harm is dealt. The Rune Lord deals 2 harm. We block 1. So we're only going to take 1, putting us at 2. Start of the round, we'd be back at 3. Oof. It got a 6. Oof. I'm not doing hot on this. The Rune Lord's not going to move. Because the Rune Lord is going to swing and then erupt, which is going to deal a total of 5 harm. We have a 3 and a 1. So I'm going to use that to... Doesn't matter where I put it. I just need to move 1. So I'm going to move back 1. Avoid the eruption. I'm going to unlock that die, but we still get the round benefit of it. So I'm at 4, and I have 3 stamina. Roll for the Rune Lord. Bow for 4s. Which is move 1, harm 2, block 1. So the Rune Lord is going to move up. I'm going to roll all 3 dice. 1, 1, 6. So I am going to... Yeah, alright. We're going to put... We're going to play this safely. We're going to do block 2, harm 1. Which I believe we win. Move 1. No, we don't. It's a stalemate. Okay. No, I know I can take the hit. This is the thing, is I'm really feeling the Elden Ring style of it, because it's immediately the thought of, okay, but do I have the health to actually do this? Which I do. So, we're going to put the 6 in harm, and forget the 2, I guess. Because I need to deal at least 2, because it's blocking 1. And we're just going to exchange harm. So it deals 2 harm to us. We deal a ton of harm to it. And that is the end of the Rune Lord. So, victory! In the final fight, the Rune Lord is defeated. Collapsing. In a pile of ash before you, you have slain your first Rune Lord. A rune glows among the embers, or among the cinders. Placing it against your skin, you carve it into your being using the obsidian chisel bound to you. The rune glows in your skin for a moment, and you feel yourself grow in power, more untethered from fate. Seek Rune Lords, take their runes, take back your fate. So, congratulations, you just finished your first realm in Rune, and now have an understanding of the basic rules of the game. Is that all? Of course not. The complete game has so much more that you didn't get to see here. Here's just a tease. Bigger realms with multiple paths. Capture the exploration feeling of the worlds of Soul-like games. Tons of weapons and supporting items to discover and wield to find your perfect build. Lots of enemies to face and Rune Lords to slay. An advancement system based on slaying Rune Lords and gaining fate-changing powers. Rules for wielding powerful two-handed weapons. Terrains, traps, and hazard rules to change up the battlefield. Lots more. Ready for more? If you're ready to take your Rune experience to the next level, go read the complete rules document. After that, take what you've learned and try your hand at the Grim Coast realm. Want even more? Grab some of the many weapons and enemies in the resources document and make your own combat scenarios. Find the weapons and builds that fit your playstyle. If you'd like to learn more about Rune, and all of that. So, that took us about an hour to do everything. So, be sure to follow Spencer Campbell. Spencer, if you like game design, Spencer does a great job. Actually streams on Twitch and has been doing long form solo playthroughs of Rune. I will actually be keeping this character so that way we can take it into the next realm we do. And I'm actually really excited to get to design for Rune. I already have ideas for different realms and like what I would want to do. Also, as people who know me have probably guessed by now, I already have an idea to make this a Bloodborne themed game. So there's that. But yeah, so that was the Rune playtest. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to a quick break so I can refill my water, and then we'll take probably the next half hour to an hour going through the rest of the Rune documents, starting with the complete rules, diving into resources, and then we'll skim through the Grim Coast, which is the second realm that is available. So in the meantime, get up, grab breakfast if you haven't yet. get water, etc., etc. And we will be back in just a bit. And we're back with more Rune. Hope you had a good stretch in the meantime. All we're gonna do for the rest of this is just talk through the game and what I think of it so far, and then check out some of the other documents. This tutorial is well built. Like it gave me first area of a Souls game feel, which was very nice. And so getting to work through it, you get your equipment up front, you get an easy fight with the duelist, where like you don't feel super hindered in what you can do, which was very nice. And then I like the idea of the realm clock, which is as you're progressing through an area, something happens, which is really nice. And then I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a couple of grammatical errors, but like otherwise, I didn't feel like anything was detrimental to the game. I do think there were a couple of inconsistencies. The bandits have more health according to the base document versus the cards. I think the bandits were supposed to have 3 health instead of 4. Some of the item cards have similar descriptions, which it's copy pasted. So it just looks like something didn't get changed later on. And then I think the other thing I would have liked during the Rune Lord section when you get the... So Delve, it doesn't remind you that you're going to have -1 stamina for the first round of the fight. I remembered, and I took that into account, but if I hadn't, we would have ended that fight a lot faster. And I would have liked a walkthrough of how combat would work with a locked item. Because if I gain the effect, but the effect is at the start of a round, when does that occur when I roll the die? Because, like, I rolled that 5. Should I have immediately gained a health? Or does that wait until the next round? And then if that's the case, is that considered locked in? Or do I gain that benefit and then don't have to lock in the die? You know, some kind of explanation of how that would work in those different instances would be nice. And that might be something that's in the complete rules, I just haven't looked yet. Otherwise, I really like how the Rune Lord's set up. I don't know if it's intentional that Erupt doesn't hit the same space as the Rune Lord. Because it says keep away from them, but also there's an option to just stay in the same space as it and hope you can survive the 3 harm. Especially if you're rolling shit like I did, because I rolled 1-6. And it was because I summed up, or no, it was that last one. I got 2 1s and a 6. So beyond that, like, I was rolling 3 and under the whole time. But otherwise, playtest was very well put together. I like this kind of walk you through design, and I'm excited to see what else Spencer comes up with. I like the idea of the cards. That was really nice too, being able to have this little thing in front of you. Like, you could just make these on index cards and have your setup. Makes it really easy to walk through the game. So I figured next we'd walk through kind of the complete rules and see what's going on there. A lot of this we're going to skip over because we've already seen it in other aspects. For example, Rune Lords, they're the bosses. They have phases, so their action set may change based off how much health they have left. It was kind of hinted at, I think. I think that would have been interesting. Runes. Each Rune Lord will give you a powerful rune if you defeat them. Runes in the form of advancement in... Runes are the form of advancement in Rune, besides collecting new gear, and they provide powerful bonuses. You can have 3 equipped at a time. That's interesting. You have map. You can have sigil points, cycles of play. The rules of a realm overlay on top of the normal rules, which is interesting. Means different areas can have different effects. That's how you get, like, your poison swamp, where walking through this area builds up poison, or something along those lines. So it's a point crawl system, so you can have those changes anytime you make those moves. Okay, you can change your gear anytime you're not in combat. Points are dangerous, oftentimes house enemies. You have a grid. Some enemies are unique and are labeled as such. Unique enemies do not come back whenever you die or rest at Sigil. That was the other reason I didn't go back to rest, because we would have to redo all of those fights leading up to the boss. Okay, if a fight has a unique enemy as well as non-unique enemies, the other enemies do come back when you die or rest. The fight is unmarked, but the unique enemy is no longer a part of it. That makes sense. So it's like if you get a special encounter, there's an instance of that in Elden Ring where, depending on the time of day, you can fight these Black Knight characters, and there's an instance where there's 2 with a caravan. And if you defeat them and then rest again at night, they no longer show up with that caravan. But the caravan will keep going. And then diving through the different actions: search, learn, delve, and then marking action. Whenever you complete an action at a point, mark it to show that it has been completed. Okay. Travel, it's a point crawl. There are costs and dangers as part of travel, such as random encounters. Depends on the realm. Lore is an abstract representation of your knowledge about the realm. Realms are full of secrets and mysteries. Always start at 0. More lore, the better you are, because you'll know the area and know its secrets. And then some things like delves require you to have a certain lore score. That makes sense. Okay. So, this was the part I was wondering about, is how is death made harder? When you die, you're resurrected at the nearest sigil point on the map. Assuming these are ones you have visited. Because you wouldn't know otherwise unless you read ahead in the realm. Resurrection gives you all of your health back, but at a cost. First, all of the fight actions are unmarked. Your death has provided the realm with energy, bringing your enemies back to life as well. Some exceptions to this: important or key enemies do not return. That all makes sense. Second, you suffer a death curse. Death curses are dependent on the realm. Interesting. Temporary debuffs, or until you fulfill a certain requirement. Some stay with you during the rest of your time in the realm. And it also may be for the number of advances on a realm clock. That'd be interesting depending on how far you are in the realm clock. It'll probably say, or the clock is completed. Sigils are safe points on the map. They have a unique action, rest, which allows you to recover all of your missing health. If you do so, you unmark all the fights, excluding enemies that cannot be unmarked. Number of sigils on a map will vary, with larger realms typically having multiple sigils. If there are multiple sigils, you may travel from one sigil to any other on the map as a single action, so there is a fast travel mechanic as well. Realms change with time. That change is represented by the realm clock. The realm clock tracks an ongoing or upcoming event in the realm. Each realm has its own rules. So moving between points, completing an action, or resting or resurrecting at a sigil point could all increase the realm clock. When the realm clock fills up, something important happens. Some realms, it's a minor effect, such as changing day to night. For others, it signals a major, irreversible shift in the realm. Realm clocks are categorized as either repeating or singular. Repeating realm clock is reset after filling up. Singular realm clocks do not reset, typically because they provide a very substantial change to the realm that cannot be repeated. So, following actions fill a segment of the clock. Moving between points, completing any action at a point. When the clock is filled up, switch between day or night and reset the clock. The actions that are available at a point will depend on if it is day or night. So that's an easy way to have a day-night cycle in your game. Combat. We're gonna skim through this. We've talked through all of that. Same thing for enemies. Rounds of combat determine enemy action. The enemy moves. And then they give examples of all that. Determining Graves actions. You can add 2 dice, specifically 2 dice together. If there is any unspent stamina, they are lost and not used this round. And then you move and then determine harm. Okay, movement. Character moves, they move to adjacent space. May enter the space of another character, but only 2 characters may share the same space. Yep. Range or distance is tracked by the number of spaces away something is. For example, the sling has a range of 2 spaces. This means the engraved can use a sling against any enemy that is exactly 2 spaces away. That's interesting. Okay, term adjacent is used to describe any space orthogonal to the current or targeted space on the grid. 2 characters may occupy the same space. When characters are in the same range as one another, they deal an additional +1 harm. Talked about that. Occasionally, there's terrain. Hold on. For example, the sling has a range of 2 spaces. This means the engraved can use the sling against any enemy that is exactly 2 spaces away. Does that mean if they are 1 space away, I can't use the sling? It does say exactly, yeah. So that's, otherwise it'd be something like up to 2. Yeah, I agree with that. But also, narrator, welcome on in. So this is like being play tested right now. So that's, if that's a question that comes up, that is something you want to ask the designer, just to ensure that that is the intention. Because that may not be the actual intention, and you just want to ensure that it is consistent with what the designer's plans are. Because if I take that a step further, the max a combat grid is 4x4. Yeah, Raw versus Rye. Exactly. So let's say I have a longbow and the range is 3. Does that mean if an enemy is 2 spaces away and I had that exact same wording, like let's say longbow against an enemy that is exactly 3 spaces away, that means if the enemy is 2 spaces away, I can't use the longbow. Which should be effective in both cases. Also, I'm getting... Oh. I was getting some weird tinning on my end. So, sorry, I had to fix that. Okay, terrain. Affects line of sight. Permanent terrain represents large objects and things that can't be moved through. And they also block line of sight. So, you want to use your sling and there was a piece of permanent terrain, you would not be able to hit them unless you moved. If a line can be drawn from one corner of a character space to another corner without moving along or through permanent terrain, they are considered to have line of sight. If it were me running the game, I'd lean more towards the distance being the max and maybe some light penalty for using a ranged weapon against while in melee. Like in 5e, yeah, yes and no. The main reason for me saying no is because this is emulating like Souls-like combat, and so is trying to keep the rules of the game very simple. And I have absolutely headshotted a dude who was right in front of me with the longbow. And so that's where my questioning comes in, is more of like, which, narrator, if you want to check out the playtest docs, I have the full rules right now. But if you want to check out the tutorial, it does a really good job of talking through this, except it's all melee combat during the tutorial, because they didn't want to introduce anything too crunchy. That being said, it's a pretty light system. A lot of the rules are more in the exploration than the combat. Because, like, this is your battlefield. It's a 4x4 grid, and that's it. So it's interesting to have to think about it in such a small space. So, if a line can be drawn from one corner of a character space to another corner without moving along or through permanent terrain, they are considered to have line of sight. So, corner to corner. Okay. That's weird with orthog. Well, I guess if you would move along the grid line. So, corner to corner. Maybe. Or corner to opposing corner. So then, if there's an X here, you wouldn't have line of sight. That makes sense. Difficult terrain represents spaces that are challenging to get through. Character must spend 2 move instead of 1. Okay. Hazards, trap spell, elemental effects, yada yada yada. Triggered and timed. Intentionally placed by characters, such as a snare. Remain on the grid until they're activated. Timed, are on a specific number of rounds before they disappear. They will eventually leave the grid, even if they're never activated. Timed hazards are intentionally created by gear or action sets, and some are an aftermath effect of another action. Interesting. Okay. Gear. You have 2 hands. Use them. Weapons have range. Weapons unable to deal harm to any targets that are not within range. Some weapons do not have a range, either because they do not heal harm or deal harm, or their range varies depending on the stamina die assigned to them. In combat, a weapon can only be used once per round. Engrave may use 2 dice for a single use of a weapon, summing them together. And you must have the exact value. So we ran into that a couple times where I would roll something that would sum to 7. So let's say I had a 6 and a 1. Neither weapon I used could use a 1. So I would lose the 1 and have to use the 6. Keep in mind, not all dice values work for every weapon. And that's what they're getting into here. Two-handed weapons have slightly different rules. For this playtest, there are two-handed weapons, the Scythe and Drake's Talon. The Scythe can either be used in 1 or 2 hands. If using 1, however, you can switch at the start of a round. When you do so, you stow away your other weapon and cannot assign stamina dice to it. You may switch stance at the start of any round. There's also an interesting... I don't know if I caught this earlier. Look back at the character. So one thing that came up for me was stamina and how that worked. Stamina. Pool of d6 you roll on your turn to do things. So that is considered a separate stat. Which is interesting because we had 2 the entire time and we had 2 weapons. because technically the shield is considered a weapon gear. But then when we got the Radiant Amulet later, we bumped it to 3. Which I get was just for the playtest, but that's interesting if you don't guarantee that you get stamina based on the amount of equipment you have. So if I have 3 dice and only using 2 equipment, that means I'm always going to sum up something. Or it will apply to a 2-handed weapon, is how I feel this is going to go. 2-handed weapons have multiple sets of dice values. One set is for when the weapon is being used one-handed, the other for when it is 2. Using a 2-handed weapon functions the same as normal, however there are some new dice value outcomes that are not normally possible. These values are greater than 6. And this is where summing comes in. So, utility gear refers to a wide range of pieces of equipment that the engraved might have on them to enhance their abilities. Armor, amulets, rings, etc. Engraved can only have 2 pieces of utility gear equipped at a time, so we can have 2 utility gear and 2 weapons, essentially. Flat bonuses or abilities. Passive, locked, and charge. Okay, passive, ongoing effect. Strider boots give you move 1 every turn as long as you have them equipped, for instance. Locked, I needed a better explanation for. Or I needed a... So the thing I ran into was it wasn't exactly clear the order of operations for a locked item. So locked gear provides an ongoing effect, but that effect must be activated using your stamina dice. Similarly to weapons, locked gear has specific outcomes linked to dice value. Unlike weapons, however, once you've slotted a die towards a locked gear, that die remains on that gear. As long as the die is there, you maintain that particular effect, but you do not get to roll that die at the start of your turn as part of your stamina pool. At the end of any round, you may remove your dice from locked gear and return them to your stamina pool. In this way, they can act like a weapon by only using them 1 round, or like passive gear by keeping the die locked away and consistently receiving the effect. Okay, so that answered my question. Because what I was trying to figure out was if when we assign the die. Okay. That basically answers my question, because what I was looking for was, let's say I roll a 5, I'm going to heal 1 from the Radiant Amulet. If I do that, when does that occur? Immediately or next round? And let's say I'm not locking in the die. Okay. So then I re-roll it next round. So, depending on your interpretation of that, it could feel like a waste because you're not actually getting the benefit of the healing later on. But who knows? Finally, charged gear. Charged gear allows you to receive a benefit from the pieces of gear when you decide to spend 1 of its charges. In order to do so, you assign any rolled stamina die to the charged gear. The value of the die is the number of charges that piece of gear now has. You may spend charges to gain the gear's effect once per turn, possibly more. We'll see how testing goes. When you do so, reduce the value of the die charging the gear by 1. When the die reaches 0, it is returned to your stamina pool. Dice in charged gear cannot be returned until they are entirely spent. This differentiates from locked gear, gives you flexibility in terms of deciding how many rounds you want to invest in the charging gear. Okay. So, and that is it for the expanded rules for Rune, or the actual rules for Rune. Go check out the Grim Coast Realm and face off against the dreaded Ruined King. Or you can check out the resource document, which has a bunch of extra weapons and enemies to try out. Rune is continuing to be developed, and there are a lot more changes and features to come. Here are some of the things to look out for in either the core rules or some of the realms in development. Random encounters, different ways to connect points on the map, dangerous versus safe travel, slow versus fast travel, hidden versus discovered paths, character sheets, exploration sheet to track notes of what you've discovered, new ways for the realm clock to advance, lots of new weapons, utility gear, and enemies to fight. Love that. So I am gonna go check something real quick. Before we get too far into the next document. Because I thought somebody was going live by now, and they haven't yet, so I'm gonna go check. Okay, no, they're not going live for a while. Okay. So yeah, we were just gonna skim through the last couple of documents and then go from there. So resources, this is going to be a collection of weapons and enemies. And we'll see how that looks. So, collection of resources to help you playtest Rune. Longsword has the same thing. Shield's the same. Great Axe is a one-hand weapon. Has Cleave. Deals 1 harm to enemies adjacent to the target. That would be interesting. And it's on there no matter what, but it's only if you get a 4, 5, or 6. So that's something where, and you don't have a move benefit at lower level either. Dagger has critical on a 5 or 6, which deals an additional 2 harm when in the same space instead of 1. So you want to be up close and personal when using the dagger. Bull Shield has bash, move enemy 1 space away at the end of the round, so after harm is dealt. So you can get the benefit of being in the same space and then go from there. Tower Shield actually gives a negative move cost if you roll too low because it's heavy. Duelist Dagger has deflect, where you can trade the harm for block, but you don't get that on a 6. Oh, probably because the max I think you can block without using the Tower Shield is 2. Erupting Flame is a spell. Deals 2 harm to all adjacent spaces. Deals 2 harm to all in your row or column. Deals 5 harm to adjacent enemy. Take 2 harm. Interesting. I would have to playtest that, because I don't know how that would work. I don't know how I would feel about that 6. Like, I get why. Just don't know how I'd feel about it. Sanguine Tooth has the vampiric effect, so heal 1 after a kill. I mean, it is dealing 4 harm, so that's fair. Spear is adjacent in 2 spaces. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. So this does answer our question from earlier. It is rules as written and intended the range is exactly the values given. So a spear is adjacent, so 1 space away, or 2 spaces away. If you are in the same space as someone, you cannot use the spear. The sling is 2 spaces away or 3 spaces away. So it is saying if you are in melee range with someone, you cannot use it. Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, similar effects are used. That's cool. Snare Trap. Place a snare hazard in any adjacent enemy space, or empty space, excuse me. All current snares gain additional effect, deal 2 harm. So you can set them up ahead of time and then just become a trapper. That's neat. All current snares gain additional effects. So you set up a bunch of snares and then get a 6. Easy, right? So Scythe, with the one-handed stance, after killing an enemy, deal +1 harm on next attack. That's cool. And then wielding two-handed changes the range of it. You can no longer attack someone who's in the same space as you, but you can now hit 2 spaces away. And it gained the cleave effect. That's cool. And has effects for getting 7 and higher. Move to harm 4, and then cleave. So you can back up to swing, harm someone for 4, and then harm someone else for 1. Or multiple people for 1. Drake's Talon seems to be some sort of sword because it can harm and block. And then two-handed, it actually loses the blocking effect and gains cleave for all of its values. Which if you're rolling 2 dice, you hope you get a 5. Because that's a 2 and a 3. At minimum. So deals 1 harm to adjacent enemies, as usual. Crown of Red is a locked utility item. Which increases the amount of harm dealt, but you also receive more harm. Serrated teeth of this blade absorb blood as quickly as they make it. Interesting. And the Radiant Amulet, which we had during the playtest, heal 1 harm at the start of each round, or heal 2 harm at the start of each round. And now you have some of the passives and the charged items. So Luckstone allows you to reroll 2 stamina dice, but it has a certain number of charges to it. Strider Boots, if you have 0 move this turn, gain +1. I would actually rather see that as... So I don't like the wording on that. Like, I get why, but I want to move 3 spaces. So if I get my sword and shield and I have Strider Boots, why can't I do that? Titan's Mirror, enemies take 1 harm after harming you. Oh, that's cool. Chain Grip. Diagonal spaces are considered adjacent for your weapons because you swing a motherfucker. I love that. Alright, and then we get into enemies. Which seem to have some cool effects. Okay, so Soldier has 4 health, same and adjacent for its range. No sign of fear in their eyes. The duelist or soldier seems to enjoy the sport of the fight more than trying to win it. Veteran has more health. And is overall just a better soldier by the looks of it. Noxus Shambler. Has only 2 health and range of same, but move 1 Noxious on previous space, move 3, Noxus on all previous spaces, Noxus on all adjacent spaces. So when killed, it leaves Noxus in its space. So this is something you pair up with other enemies. And the Noxus is a time hazard for 1 round. Any character in the space reduces their next die/dice roll by 1. Okay, so each die is reduced by 1. No. Okay. And then the caster is ranged, so only hits in spaces 2 or 3 away, and does harm based off that. Okay. And basically does harm no matter what, as long as it's in range, which is why you need to close that gap. Character sheet, pretty straightforward. Exploration sheet. Okay. So, that was the resources. So actually, I think we are going to start wrapping up there. Because what I think I want to do next time, so next Ashen Workshop is in 2 weeks, and I will do a poll on Twitter to confirm this, but I think what we'll do is we'll pick up again with the Grim Coast, and we'll run through that, and we'll make that a stream. Because it is a larger realm compared to the playtest we did earlier, which if you missed that, the VOD will be available on YouTube probably tomorrow. Yeah, because this has a lot more to it. So, we're going to leave it there. Be sure to check out Rune, because I really enjoy the design of this game. And it's going to be on Kickstarter for a print run. So, follow the Kickstarter. As of right now, it is at... Come on, Kickstarter website. Is at 324 followers. So, yeah, go check that out. And check out the playtest for yourself. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. All that being said, let's find somebody to raid. I think I have a couple teammates online right now. I do. We're gonna raid over to let's see. We're going to raid over to Bethis for some Phasmophobia. They are I believe they're a partnered Phasmo streamer. Like, they get to do all the cool playtest shit. So we're going to go show some love. They are a fellow Underworld team member for myself. I have been Brandon, aka Ashenworks. You can find me everywhere on the internet at Ashenworks, or follow my links right there. I do stream on my own channel 1 to 2 times a week, but otherwise I am here being head of production, community manager, and social media manager, along with being co-founder of Huntsman's Hydra. So next Ashen Workshop is in 2 weeks. Next stream on Huntsman's Hydra is Fire in the Dark tomorrow, 1 p.m. Central, 2 Eastern. Be sure to check that out. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye now.